Viewpoint is supported by viewers like you. To support Viewpoint and the other programs on the Ian Beaumont Live and Direct channel, visit patreon.com/Ian Beaumont Live and Direct. So, Australia's got a new Prime Minister. From Ian Beaumont Live and Direct, this is Viewpoint. Welcome along, Ian Beaumont here, good to be with you once again. And we're back to talking about Australia, yes, because a lot of the process actually happened like overnight between my posting my previous post and the following morning. It was all sorted out. Let me kind of run through, with some help from ABC News in Australia, just how quickly all this happened. The motion, the idea was they were going to have a meeting, and basically Liberal MPs sort of arrived for the meeting, and at about 3:30 in the morning UK time, in the party room, that's what it's called in Australia, they call it the party room, where the individual MPs for an individual party actually gather. So in the party room, they were voting at about 3:30 on whether or not to actually have a spill. In other words, a leadership contest. That vote went 45-40. So it was not an overwhelming majority. There was still a lot of people supporting Malcolm Turnbull. That vote was done by 3:35 a.m. Less than 5 minutes. That's exceedingly quick. That's way quicker than we do it here. So, nominated in those who were nominated to actually stand for this leadership election were Julie Bishop, Scott Morrison, and Peter Dutton. Malcolm Turnbull had actually said beforehand that if it went to a spill, he would not stand. So at that point, he was done. There's a whole formal process that has to happen for him to let go of the Prime Ministership, but that's all happened as well. We'll talk about that. So yeah, at 3:38 a.m. UK time, the report came in that Julie Bishop, Scott Morrison, and Peter Dutton were all nominated for the new Liberal Party leadership and the Prime Ministership as a result. It came out very quickly that the vote had been 45-40. The report came out on the live blog at 3:41 a.m. UK time. Very, that's a surprisingly quick. The information probably wouldn't. The vote would have still been going on in UK terms at that point, which was. But it is quite significant that the split was as big as it was. 45 wanted to get rid of him. 40 didn't. That's significant. By 3:44, we understood that Julie Bishop had been eliminated. One round of voting had already taken place in about 5 minutes or less. That's incredibly quick. You just don't see that sort of turnaround of voting this speed in the UK. And it was between Peter Dutton and Scott Morrison. The winner needed 43 votes. In the end, Scott Morrison won by the same number as had wanted the spill, 45 to 40. It was a very close run thing. 45 votes to Scott Morrison, 40 to Pete Dutton. That came out at 350, which means that the whole process had taken 20 minutes. 20 minutes. I can't imagine a Conservative leadership election being done in 20 minutes. Like that. 2 rounds of voting, 20 minutes. Done. That's insane. So, next was a vote for the deputy position. Again, there were 3 nominees. And that was decided very quickly. Josh Frydenberg became the new deputy leader. So there you go. Yeah. The whole process done in half an hour. At that point. Next comes the more formal, sort of ceremonial part. But then there were other things. Like, for instance, there's another party. There's a few other parties that are in coalition with the Liberals at the moment in Parliament. One of those was the Carter Party, and just after 4 o'clock, Anna Henderson on Twitter tweeted out, "I'm told the KAP position on confidence and supply for a Morrison-led government is yet to be settled. It's not assured at this stage because it's not something they were anticipating." Well, that's fair, because nobody had been anticipating the kind of chaos we got this entire week from Australia. So, yeah, it was kind of understandable. Do we not? So, next. Malcolm Turnbull had to pay a visit to the Governor-General, who is the Queen's representative in Australia. It's kind of like our Prime Minister going to Buckingham Palace to see the Queen. That is very much what happens. The person who had caused all this mess was actually a former Prime Minister, Tony Abbott. He was a key agitator, according to ABC News in Australia, in this strike against Malcolm Turnbull's leadership. He said, and I quote, "We have lost the Prime Minister. There is a government to save. That is what all of us will do our best to do now. Save the government." You lost the Prime Minister because you deliberately agitated against him. Doesn't matter whether I agree with the policies or not. I don't. But that doesn't matter. You deliberately shot down your own leader. And now you say, "Well, now we're going to save the government." It wouldn't have needed saving if you hadn't shot down your own Prime Minister. You wonder if these people realise we can see them. That came out just before 4:30 this morning, UK time. Absolute. But it's like, how do you say that and think nobody will notice that you have just sabotaged your own party's leadership for apparently no gain? You know, there's nothing to be gained upon this. So, and certainly for a party in power, there's a hell of a lot to lose, especially with an election that has to happen next year. So you might be thinking, well, we got a year to kind of brush this under the carpet. That doesn't really help a lot of people. So, about 5 a.m. UK time, Malcolm Turnbull gave a press conference, which, was his final official press conference as Prime Minister. I could talk about all the things that he said in his final speech. Most of them don't matter, because actually, the moment that kind of summed up things was sort of right at the end. His grandson Jack, his family were all out there with him, and his grandson Jack kind of ran out and yelled, "Boo!" at the press. The press that had been complicit in taking the Prime Minister down. And Malcolm Turnbull just goes, come on, Jack. That was lovely. That's a wonderful, wonderful moment of lightheartedness. But yeah, a press in Australia that's kind of not unlike ours, in part because the same man part runs it as part runs the press over here, Rupert Murdoch. But beside all that, and he's not the only one guilty in this, there's a lot of them. But yeah, I thought that was a great moment, and one that really kind of summed up how things have gone for this. You've had a press against it for, God, the longest time now. Ever since Malcolm Turnbull turfed out Tony Abbott back in 2015, yeah, that's the last time we had a spill out like this, like crazy. Ever since Malcolm Turnbull won that in 2015, and then went through the election in 2016, the press has been the Australian press has been pretty much against him. And I'm talking mainly the printed press here. I'm not talking about things like 7 Network, 9 Network. But also he has had some of the, there's been some commentaries on Sky News Australia. There's been commentaries from talk radio stations in Australia that have just literally ripped him a new one every time. And not for the right reasons either. It's not been done for, improving the country. It's been done just because they dislike the man. That's not the right reason. So, yeah. So, that last press conference was over by about 5:25. Give or take a little bit. It was a long press conference, that one. Next up was going to the Governor General's, and I think one comment from one comment from a backbencher called Rowan Ramsey kind of stood out. when he said the whole experience this week has been like a train wreck for the party. And you know what? He's right. It's been a train wreck. But it's been a train wreck that political observers like myself have not been able to take our eyes off. Because it's like, whoa, self-destruction. Here we go again. And it is, and there hasn't been a prime minister in the entirety since 2007. There hasn't been a prime minister since John Howard left office who has gone through a whole 3-year term in office, electoral term in office, unchallenged and not losing. Kevin Rudd, 2009. 2010, just before the election. Same with Julia Gillard, who replaced him again, 2013, a couple of months before the election. Tony Abbott won the prime ministership in 2013. Only lasted till 2015. Malcolm Turnbull turfed him out the election in 2016. Malcolm Turnbull now gets turfed out today. So it's been 11 years since a prime minister in Australia survived a full electoral term. And that had been John Howard, and he had survived 3 full electoral terms. 3 of them. And nobody since has managed to survive 1. Now, what does that tell you about the state of political discourse right now in Australia and for the past 11 years? Because I'll tell you what it tells me. It tells me that it's a complete and utter mess. There is no political discourse. There is just attacking each other. Doesn't matter whether you're on the same party or not. Just to get attacked by, whether it's from opposition members of parliament or from your own benches. This surely, and the Australian people, surely you must be looking at this and thinking, what kind of political discourse are we allowing to happen here? Surely the people must now stand up to their MPs and say, what the hell are you doing? This is not how we should be doing business in Parliament. But of course that's not what will happen, because of course the Australian public, like the British public, far too readily believe what's written in their newspapers. So, Malcolm Turnbull went into Government House around about 10 to 6 UK time this morning. Met the Governor-General and recommended the new leader of the Liberal Party for Prime Minister. His car left Government House just around about 6:15 UK time this morning. Which, and literally by, I think it was about 7 a.m. So it looked to me about 6:10 local time, about 9:10 this morning, when the swearing-in ceremonies actually began. And they ended literally by about 9:20. So in the space of 3 hours, between 3:30 in the morning UK time and 6:30 in the morning UK time, there had been 2 leadership elections, a new Prime Minister, a new Deputy, all decided, sworn into office. That's amazingly fast. You wouldn't get something anywhere near that fast in this country. But there you go. That's what happens in Australia. And this whole leadership campaign, which only started at the beginning of this week. It's all happened this 1 week. 1 week of this. In this country, in the UK, it would go on over 3 or 4 months. Not 1 week. Is it better to do slower? I don't know. I can't make a judgment on that. All I do know is that this has been insanely quick. All told. That's Viewpoint. I'm Ian Beaumont. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe. Support me on Patreon. Patreon.com/Ian Beaumont Live and Direct. And follow my thoughts on the blog. Ian Beaumont Live and Direct.blogspot.com. Until next time, thanks for watching. Stay sharp. Stay tuned.